Started. Wait a second. Okay, so we're good to start. So yesterday we were talking about SQL database. And when I told SQL database, I told we will be majorly dealing with database where the data is sequentially arranged, means it will be in rows and columns. And I will have a set schema, a set pattern in which the data will come. But then today, if you see around yourself, the data which is getting generated and the data which is getting collected, it is more of a NoSQL data. Okay. The NoSQL data is not structured. It is unstructured or semi-structured. And obviously, to save this kind of data, I need a different kind of database altogether. So yesterday I told that we will be dealing with DynamoDB to make sure that our data is kept properly. So I will come here and say DynamoDB. So this is my DynamoDB and it says managed NoSQL database. Again, why am I using a managed NoSQL database? Because it is going to be fast and flexible. And one more important thing here is it is serverless. So when I say serverless, I don't have to manage anything. I don't have to go and provision anything. Everything will be taken care by Amazon. And as and when the data, as and when the capacity is required, the capacity will automatically increment. What is the benefit? First, it is fast, flexible. It will help you to save NoSQL database and you can scale at any capacity. Many a times it has been seen that if the load is less, then that software is working good. But as and when the load increases, means the volume of data which we are storing increases, the performance gets degraded. But here in DynamoDB, we don't see any such problem. Even if you load petabytes of data, thousands of GBs of data, even then the performance remains intact, means there will be no slowness, no problem. And that is the reason we say it is production ready. Now, how it works? So I will just explain how it works. But what are the benefits? The benefit is it can perform at any scale. So even if it becomes big, small, whatever it is, it will become good. It will work properly. You don't have to manage any servers. It is serverless. So Amazon will manage all the components for you. Third is it is enterprise ready. So today you can start your work and it will work full-fledgedly at a production grade. So you don't have to do any extra or additional setup. Why and what are the use cases? So if you have some advertising technology where you have lots of data, lots of events happening, lots of clicks happening. So your website, many people visit and they click on the item which they want to purchase. So all this clickstream data, advertising technology can be processed using DynamoDB. If there is some gaming application where you have player data, you have session history, leaderboard, any kind of game which you want to run on AWS, you can use NoSQL database. If you belong to a retail industry where you have workflow engines, you have shopping carts, you have inventory tracks, all these things you want to keep, you can keep it here. Media and entertainment kind of work which you have where you want low latency, you want high throughput, means immediately the customer should be able to see the videos, he should be able to upload the videos, download the videos, then this guy is the place for you. You can do video streaming, interactive content. Okay, all these things can be done using DynamoDB. Then anything which is working on software and internet, basically your websites and all you can put here. So whenever there is a hike in the traffic or spike in the traffic, it will take care of that. Banking and finance. So if you are having high agility, you want everything in a reduced time frame. Time to market is something which is very critical here. You want to minimize the operational head. So anything which you want, you can get it done here. Okay. So Amazon DynamoDB is what we are going to start with. So I'm going to simply go ahead and say, I want to create a table. So when you say that you want to create a table, you just need to mention what is the name of the table and what is the partition key you want. That's it. Apart from that, everything else will be taken care by my AWS. So let me say I'm going to create a table, and the name of the table I'm going to give as Facebook. Okay, so it can have any name. Then the most important thing which we use here is partition key. So partition key acts like a primary key, and with this you will be able to sequentially arrange your data. So basically so if you are from a DB background, you will know that there is something called sequence ID or a hash ID generated. Now this hash ID will uniquely identify that particular row. So partition key acts like that. And whenever you span across the data where it is a big chunk of data, you want high availability and scalability, then you can use this partition key. So partition key in simple terms can be thought as a primary key. So here I will say my partition key is ID, and I would like to keep this ID as a number. So I am saying ID is my partition key and I want to keep it as a number. Then sort key. So sort key, as the word suggests, you will arrange your data based on this sort key. So it may be a date, it may be time, anything like that. So I will say date is my sort key. So date, and I will keep it as string. Now, you can either go with the default settings or you can customize your own settings. So if you go with default settings, these are the things which you get. Okay. And then you simply go ahead and say create a table. But I will go with customized settings so that I learn what all settings are available here. So if I come here to customize settings, I can see here there is something called DynamoDB standard and DynamoDB standard IA. Now, the same concept is what we covered also in S3. We saw that when I talk about DynamoDB standard, the storage is comparatively on a higher side. The cost is comparatively on a higher side, but the data is frequently accessed. But in case I go with standard IA, I am able to save a good amount of cost, but it is good for data which is not that frequently accessed. So if the data is not that frequently accessed, then you should go with S3 DynamoDB standard IA or infrequently accessed. Now, there is something called capacity calculator. So let's talk about this. Now, there are a few things which I discussed yesterday, like there is eventual consistency, strong consistency, and transactional consistency. So we were talking about this yesterday. So I gave you an example where I told that I have a friend, and this friend, let me come here. So I have a friend, and this friend has borrowed, let me say, $100 from me. So I go to this friend and say, give me my $100. He say, okay, you go back. Once you reach home, you will get the money. I will transfer you the money. Okay. That is eventual consistency. So now I'm not doing it, but you go, I will do it. Okay. That kind of scenario is there. Then you have strong consistency. So in strong consistency, you go to your friend's house and say, hey, give me the money. Unless and until you give me the money, I'm not going to go back. So that is strong consistency. Means then and there, I need the transaction to complete. So it may be that it may consume a little bit more time, but unless and until you give me the money, I'm not going back home. And then there is a transactional consistency. So transactional means there are set of transactions which will happen, and then only you will get your money. For example, if you go to an ATM, okay, so you insert your card, then you supply the PIN details and then amount, and then the money is first deducted from your bank account, and then it will be given to you. So there is a series of steps which will happen. Each step should complete, then only the transaction is complete. Else the transaction gets cancelled. So it cannot be like if you are withdrawing 5,000, only 2,000 you will get, and 3,000 they will say, come later, I will give. So that kind of thing will not happen. It will either be 1 or 0, means either it is success or it is a failure. So that kind of stuff is known as transactional details. So when you go to your friend and say that I have given you $100, then he will say, hey, hold on, $20 was for that, $60 was that, and now you only get $40. So all the thing is settled, or everything is settled when you go with transactional consistency. So coming to the same thing here. Now, let me see, this is my primary database and these are my secondary database. So this is my primary and these two are my secondary. Now somebody is updating here. Then and there you give him a response like it is successful. Later you will go in the background and update these two guys. So that is eventual consistency. Eventually I will do it. So after some time I will do it. As of now, you say it is successful. But then when it is a strong consistency, it will wait. First, it will go and update these two guys. Once the update is done, it will get the confirmation. Then only it will confirm that yes, your work is done. Okay. And transactional, I told there will be a series of steps. If all the steps are successful, then only the transaction is complete. So you can go with eventual consistency, strong consistency, or transactional consistency. It will totally depend on the use case you are using. Same is with your write consistency. In write, it can be standard or transactional. Transactional, again, the same thing. Either it should be 1 or 0, means if you're updating the bank statement. So the bank statement should be either updated completely or should not be updated at all. Standard is that there are 5 updates to be done. You updated 2 things and 2 things you will update later, something like that. Okay. So this is your standard. So I'll keep it as standard. Here I will keep it as eventual consistency. Now here, if you see, there is item size. So every item which you read or write will have an average size. So I will say each item for me will have 10 kilobytes of data. Okay. Then there is something called read-write capacity. So per second, how many items can be written? So if I keep it as 1, it means per second, only one user can read one item. But if I keep it as 10, or let me say, if I keep it as 100, it means 100 users can read and write at the same time. But this will come with a cost. You can see here, the cost is getting calculated. The moment I do it back to 1, see here, $5.03 per month. But if I make it as 100, the cost has increased to $19.35 per month. Similarly, write capacity. So many a times when you're trying to update the database, it may take more than usual to update the database, because if you see here, my write capacity is only 1. So per second, only one user can update the database. So if I make it 10, it means you can see only I made it 10 and see how much it increased. See here, if it is 1, it is only $19. But if I make it as 10, it becomes $62.87 per month. So these are the cost which I have calculated. So the read-write capacity is 100, okay, because 10 users can do at the same time, and each file capacity is 10. So 10 into 10, 100. Similarly, here it is 100. So it is 150. So 50 is the default one. So 100 gets added. So it is 150 is the read capacity, and 150 is the read capacity and 100 is the write capacity. This is being done in US East 1, and $62.87 is being charged on a monthly basis. Okay. Now, if you come here, the read-write capacity. Now, how to decide the read-write capacity? So there can be 2 things. Okay. So the first thing can be that you let Amazon decide. Okay. So if you are letting Amazon decide, you keep it as on demand. So the moment you keep it as on demand, it is Amazon's responsibility to take care of all the items. Means when the load will come, when the load will not be there. So all these details Amazon will take care of. Okay. So this is to be done by Amazon. You can see here, on demand means Amazon is going to take care. Simply billing by paying the actual read and write and application performance. So this is my Amazon who is doing everything. Is it a regional service? Yes, it is a regional service, but there are options where you can make it a different one. Now, provision. Now, when it comes to provision, you are the one who is going to make a decision, like when to scale up, when to scale down. So see, read capacity, it is currently 1 and it can scale up to 10. Okay. When the utilization goes beyond 70%. Similarly, write capacity is currently 1. It may scale and go till 10 when the utilization is 70%. You can make it as 90%. It is your call. Okay. You can make this as 80%. So your call. So you are scaling based on the demand, but okay. Then secondary index. Now, many a times you will see that, so let me say there is a point So there is a point, okay? So there's a situation, something like this. So there are two destinations. So this is point A and this is point B. So I want to go from point A to point B, okay? So there is one single route. So everybody is taking this route only. So there will be traffic, there will be congestion. But assume that there is other route also, okay? Like this is the other route. So I will say this is secondary route, or I will say it is a shortcut, okay? Now, think of a scenario where I give you a book which has 10,000 pages in that, and you are looking for something. So if you go step by step, one by one, it means it will take a good amount of time for you to reach to that particular page and reach to particular content. But if you go to the first or the second page, you will find something called index. If you search that item by index, you will easily be able to reach to that content fast. Similarly, I can have primary index, which will be first contacted, and my partition key is my primary index. So via that, it will try to fetch the data. But let me say there are many users who are using the database. So in that case, all are trying to fetch the data from the primary index only. And in that case, it will become congested. The traffic will become very high, okay? Or you will face issues in fetching your data. So in that case, you can use a secondary index, and secondary index will help you to fetch the data in a faster and an easier way. So we can use secondary index also. So let me come back here. So as of now, I have not enabled secondary index, but if you want, you can enable this. And overall, the cost for this is, as of now, it is $2.91 per month. Here, the read capacity is 5, write capacity is 5, but I have updated it. So I'll just bring it back. So I have made it as 100. I'll keep it 1 and 1 so that the cost does not shoot up, because my purpose is not to shoot up the cost. So I can come here, and the standard capacity is 5 and 5, and it will charge me $2.91 per month. Then if you want, you can encrypt the data. Again, similar to S3, you can have your own key, or you can allow AWS to manage it for you. Okay. So the encryption can be done in multiple ways. I told you during teaching S3 that encryption can be done by Amazon itself. Amazon will take care of end-to-end, everything Amazon will do, or the customer decides. So the customer owned and managed by you. So you are the customer, you own and you manage it, or you allow everything Amazon to do it, or you allow the DynamoDB to do it. Okay. So owned by Amazon DynamoDB. So again, DynamoDB is doing it. AWS managed key. So AWS is doing it. So more or less the first two options are same, but the third option is you are managing it. So you will have to come up with your own KMS key outside my account, and you can go and get your key. But here I will not go with all these things. I will let Amazon manage the stuffs, and then I can go all the way here and I can create the table. So if you see carefully, you did not go and provision the table by creating, okay, I will allocate you this much storage, I will allocate you this type of memory. So all these things you did not do. You simply went ahead, gave the table name, gave the primary index name, and you told this is my read capacity, write capacity. That's it, done. Apart from that, everything will be taken care by AWS only. See here, read capacity provisioned with auto scaling. Currently it is 1. As and when the demand will increase, it will automatically scale up. As of now, there is 0 bytes of data. There is nothing here, and I'm using S3 standard to store my data. Indexes is 0 because I'm not using indexes, or primary index has not been created till now. And I can see my table Facebook is active. Now, generally, we do not do changes here, but in case you have to make changes, like one of you is asking that I need to go and make this table. Hold on for a second. So I need to make this table. Let me say, I need to make this table global. Okay, so let me choose this table, come here and say update settings. This is the table, right? Action. So you can make changes here, like you can edit the capacity. So the read write capacity which I have made, I can edit that. One more thing, I can update the settings. Wait a second. I can update the table class from S3 standard. I can make it S3 standard IA. I can delete the table. I can create new items, create index. Here also you can create a read replica in case you want. If you want to dump the data in S3 because you don't want to store the data on DynamoDB, you can do that. You can enable TTL. So I will teach you cache, then I will tell you what is TTL, tags, and create access control policy. So you want to restrict people from accessing your database. So you can create access control policy or ACL, access control list. Okay. As of now, if I come here to the dashboard, where is my table? Just refresh this. Table. So if I just click on this, okay, and I go to update settings, why is it not showing me? This is what I was looking at. See here, you can update the indexes in case you want. Monitoring. So I told you CloudWatch is the content which will help you to do the monitoring part. I will come to that later. So CloudWatch is the monitoring module. Now, in case you want to make it a global table, so as of now, it is only located in North Virginia. But let me say, if you want to make it global, so let me say you have customers throughout the globe. So few customers are from UK, few customers are from Japan, some are from US. So you want to make your table global. So in that case, you can use this. You can basically create read replicas and you can deploy in different regions. And based on that, your table will become global in nature. So as of now, it is local. It is only present in North Virginia. Yes, if you want to take backup, so there is something called point in time recovery. So when I say point in time recovery, so if I go with point in time recovery, so point in time recovery means that then and there the backup will be taken. Okay, so additional charges will be applied, but the backup will be taken then and there, and it will be retained for 35 days. Okay, so if I have to take a backup then and there, then I can use this PITR, point in time recovery. The benefit of this is that you do not lose any data. Okay, so if I have, let me say, backup which is being taken on daily basis, and daily in the night, 11 p.m. in the night only the backup is taken. Okay, so if my database crashes at morning 9 a.m. okay, so then what will happen? From 11 in the night till 9 in the morning, whatever transactions have happened, that will be lost. So we always look for point in time recovery. Yes, this will be difficult, means this will be costly, but then this is what, if you have a mission critical project, you will be doing it. Then there is an automated backup. You can create a backup and you can take scheduled backup, or you can take instant backup. So this is one more feature. So scheduled backup is you can run jobs, automatically it will take the backup. So if you see carefully, the work of a DBA is kind of taken care by AWS only. AWS is only managing all these things. So this is on the backup part. Then export and import streams. So many a times, like let me say you have kept some gaming application. So the gaming application means that data will be generated in a stream, or online data will be generated. So that kind of data you can come and store here. Additional settings if you want, like read-write capacity, table capacity, all these things can be changed. As of now, I have used the default setting. There is something called TTL. I will come to this. Encryption I have spoken about. Now let me come back to my table and say explore table items. So as of now, if I come here, there will be nothing here. Okay, so I will come here and I will try to edit entries. So I can come here and say create item. So when I come here and create item, it is saying, tell me the ID, tell me the date, and then you can create your own items. So let me say ID is 1001 for me. Okay, and the date is, let me say 23/01/2022. Suppose this is the date. Now I can add new attributes, or I can add new fields as per my requirement. So let me say I will add a field string and I will name it as name. So name is, let me say, Vikas. And you can say create item. So you will see one entry is done. So you don't need any editor or anything to make an entry. See here, one entry is done. Another thing, I want to make more entry. So I can come here and say create item. In the item, I can say 102. I can say the date is 1111 2001, something like this. And here I can add a new attribute. I will say number and I will say phone number. Phone number. And this guy, let me say the number is 100. I will add one more attribute. And this is, let me say, Boolean. So I will say active. So it will say true, it is active. Read. So if you see carefully, okay, it is not mandatory that all the fields should be filled. So you can fill, like for this 1002, there is a field called active and phone number, but there is nothing in the name section. Similarly, in this field, only name is there. You can create more items and you will like leave everything. You don't fill anything. 103. And here you are saying okay. So if you come down here, this is how your table entry will look like. Now, this is if I have to make small entries like 2 items, 3 items, 10 items. But let me assume that I have to do a bulk update. Bulk update means 1,000 records I have to update, 5,000 records I have to update. So obviously you cannot do it like this. Okay. So if you go inside any of the item which you are creating here, if you go inside, you will see that this is actually stored in a JSON format. Whatever data you're putting here is actually stored in a JSON format where there is a key and there is a value. So ID is the key and this is the value. Date is the key and this is the value. Okay. So this data is stored inside DynamoDB table in a JSON format. So in case you have to make a bulk update, you can update it via CLI. So you can just go for this bulk update or bulk update on DynamoDB. So when you have to make a bulk update, you should go with your CLI, command line interface. So you can find many documentations here. So you can use data pipeline or you can use batch write item. So basically this is a CLI content, or you can use an EMR cluster. So there are many other ways in which you do a bulk update on DynamoDB. But from the console, you can update 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these many items only. Okay. So if anyone says that I have to do a bulk update, obviously you cannot do it via console. That is very much pakka. Now, there are two things which you will see here. One is scan, the other one is query. Now, whenever you run a query, it is asking you a precise thing. So you know exactly what you're looking at. So I know my ID is 1001 and I will run this query. So when you run the query, you are basically looking for a particular item. Okay. But if you go for scan, so scan generally we do when we are not sure what we're looking like. So the ID is something like this, or this is something like this. So I don't exactly know what I'm looking at. Okay. So I do a scan. The problem with scan is that it will scan the entire database. So scanning is you scan the entire table, everything will be visible. This scan can be a problem. So in case we have a bigger table and you scan the data, it will take a lot of time. So always avoid to scan the DB. Okay. So scanning must be avoided as much you can. So try avoiding scanning. Okay. So this is how you create a table and you manage a table, and you can come here and view the table details at any point of time. It will tell you what is your partition key, what is your sort key, what are the capacities, and anything which you want, you can go ahead and change the stuffs. Now, here when I was teaching you this thing, I told you that there is something called TTL or time to live. Now, when we talk about TTL, come back to tables. I don't need it right now, so I'll be deleting it. It says, do you want to create a backup? I'll say, no, I don't want to create a backup. So I'll just delete the table. Now, you might have read about this. In real time, do we use scan? Very less. So ideally, it is not recommended that you use scan. Scan is risky. It is scanning the entire base table. So in real time, we avoid using scan. But if it is very much needed, then you can't do anything. Now, many a times you will see, okay, so let me say, I talk about your laptop. So in your laptop, you have something called hard disk, HDD. Now, when you try to retrieve the data directly from your hard disk, it is slow. So what people do is they introduce something called RAM. So RAM provides me cache memory. So data which is frequently being used is put in the cache. And whenever some user will come, he will first take the data, or he will try to pull the data from RAM. If the data is there in the RAM, the retrieval is very faster and the end user gets the data very, very fast. But RAM will have a capacity. Let me say he has a capacity of 8 GB. So only 8 GB worth of data can stay in the RAM, but the hard disk can be 2 TB. It means something which is there in the RAM can stay there only for a small interval of time. Let me say it will stay there for 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, it will automatically crash, or it will be automatically gone. So that 2 minutes is known as TTL, or time to live. So whenever you are trying to fetch some data from a cache memory, the cache memory will have a TTL. Okay. And this TTL will be decided what data is very frequently being accessed from the database. Okay. Now, why is it relevant in my AWS world? So in AWS, second. One second. So in AWS, if you come, there is something called elastic cache. So there is in-memory cache. Okay. There are two types of this, mem cache and Redis cache. Okay. So we'll see which one is for what. So elastic cache, as the word suggests, it is a cache memory, and it will launch, manage, and scale your distributed in-memory cache. So let me say I'm using a global DynamoDB table. So I want that the data should be cached and supplied very frequently. So I will use it for high performance, resizable, and cost-effective in-memory cache. Now, as I told you, there are two types of cache. One is Redis cache, and the other one is mem cache. So if you go to the mem cache, it is mostly used for database. Okay, so you can create it for on-prem or AWS cloud, but mem cache is generally used for database. I will not be able to show you this because if you see here, the bare minimum capacity of mem cache is R6G large, which is 13.07 GB RAM and 10 gigs of performance. So obviously it is a costly thing. So I will not show you this, but simply you come here, give a name, AWS cloud, give a name, give a description, and you can go ahead and create a cache memory. Okay. But when we are dealing with a small amount of data, it will not make much of a difference. Okay. Because the data will be very much fast and you can easily retrieve the data. So even if you use your cache memory, you will see that there is no much of a difference. But yes, if the volume of data is more, then this cache memory will definitely make a difference. So just remember one thing, that there are two types of memory. One is in memory. There is one called mem cache, which is used for database. And the other one is Redis cache or Redis cluster. This is majorly used for some website. So let me say you're trying to access a website. So that website is not responding properly. So you introduce a Redis cache so that the data can be retrieved faster. So you can go to Google and just type this because it is a very common interview question. Difference between mem cache and Redis cache. So if you go back to this, AWS documentation. They will be doing comparison. So more or less, you see that everything is same. Okay, the use case will be different. Wait a second. Let me come to use case. See here, Memcache is for simplicity, while Redis cache offers features effective for a wide range of use cases. Not this one. This one. Memcache, Redis cache. There are comparisons, but I'm just looking for the one-to-one comparison. So just remember one thing, Memcache is majorly used for database. Redis cache is used for websites. Same thing, it is coming here. Both are in-memory database, which is used to cache the memory. And whenever the data will be cached, it will have a TTL, because not everything can stay in the cache memory for a long time. Okay, so this is there. Leave this. Fine. So this is your cache memory. So today in the class, we covered two things. One is cache memory. Okay. When I say cache memory, there is Redis and there is Memcache. Both are chargeable, not covered under free cost. If you want, you can go ahead and create one. There's no big deal. You can just come here, give a name. Okay. And just go ahead down and say create one. That's it. Nothing big deal here. But you will not see a major difference because we're not dealing with a huge amount of data. The second one is your Memcache, where it will be majorly used for DB, database kind of thing. Okay, this is one. The second point which we discussed here is we were talking about DynamoDB. DynamoDB, I told you, is a NoSQL database which will help you to keep your data in a safe and a secure way in a NoSQL environment. And it is serverless, it is managed by AWS, and you just go and start using it. Okay, so in tomorrow's class, I'll be starting with VPC. Now, VPC is a networking concept. Okay, once we are done with all these concepts, we start with the project. In the project, I will show you how I'm using these components. So whatever I have taught you till now, like I have taught you IAM, I've talked about Lambda, EC2, S3, RDS. I've talked about DynamoDB. So I will be using all these components. Next is VPC. So I will be talking about VPC and I'll be creating the project using these components. So it is very important for you to understand these concepts. Focus on the fundamentals. There are many things which you will get. If your fundamentals are strong, you will be able to do many things. The best way to learn is to get your hands dirty. The more and more you get into this, the more and more you will come to know the ifs and buts. This is working, this is not working. So if you just see me that, okay, he did like this and done. For me, probably it will be done because I'm doing every now and then. But when you do it by yourself, you will get the real feeling of the work. Okay. So this is how it is. Okay. So any doubts, any questions, please go ahead. I will take the questions in case there are any.
Because indexes we kept 0, right?
See, indexes we kept as 0, but when you create your database, that partition key which you see, right, that is your primary index. So that always is 1.
Okay. Fine. I thought if index is not created, then how come it will be impact on the performance? Yes. And if the primary key acts as the index, then no issue. Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fine. Okay. See you then, guys. Tomorrow we will resume from here. See you then, guys. Bye-bye. Share the recordings.